Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Plenty happening here, but I'll get to that momentarily. Let me start off with some macro thoughts. 22nd of May, I wrote a piece called Apocalypse Trump. And I said, if we are headed to an apocalypse Trump, then I'm afraid the dollar has a lot further to fall. And I finished off by saying we're living in an unprecedented moment. The dollar index has in fact declined for 5 straight months. Take a look at this chart out of Bloomberg, which reiterates the point I was making. And then the stalwart, the gap between Trump's approval and disapproval per the RCP average has only worse on one other day of his presidency. Take a look at that article, Apocalypse Trump. But then I found this interesting. Executives are more worried about Amazon than President Trump right now, apparently. Euro nearly hit 118.50 on the back of month-end inspired dollar weakness. Now watch for the 2010 low of 118.76 as Citibank. We're currently at 118.28. And then this chart from T Commodity as well, who's actually bearish, but it's been bearish for a little while. It looks very impulsive still, I feel. FX specs on CFTC hold on to biggest net long euro position in 6 years. Barring 1 week in May 2011, euro longs are the highest in a decade. That's from Jamie at Reuters. So, it feels as if it could be prone to a slip if some stocks go off. But let's keep an eye out for now. Home thoughts, I went back to Hunter S. Thompson. The Edge. There is no way to explain it because the only people who really know where it is are the ones who have gone over. Julia McFarlane tweeted, really crave these. Anyone know what they are? The Swahili word for that fruit is shoke, and you get it for about 4 weeks a year, and they are truly delicious. It's otherwise known as rambutan. The beautiful sunset of the Mara Savannah Plains, that's a tweet from Mara Fairmont. I can't wait to get there this week, at the end of this week. I don't know, he said, I just go along. I dig life. That's a daily Kerouac. It's during the evening game drives you discover the colours of sunset at the Mara Savannah Plains. Indeed, it's very beautiful. R.I.P. Sam Shepard, the most authentic endings are the ones which are already revolving towards another beginning, he said. Political reflections, US freezes assets of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. The Treasury Department cites human rights violations. He said, if the empire's threats and sanctions don't intimidate me, nothing scares me. After receiving the Electoral Council report on the vote, issue all the sanctions you want, but the Venezuelan people have decided to be free, and I have decided to be the president of a free people. Maduro is the 4th head of state sanctioned by the US, according to Mnuchin. North Korea's Kim Jong-un, Zimbabwe's Robert Mugabe, and Syria's Bashar al-Assad are also on the Treasury's list of specially designated nationals. Bets on a Venezuelan default are climbing. The implied probability of the country missing a payment over the next year has risen to 62%, according to data compiled by Bloomberg on credit default swaps. That's the highest level since March 2016. 8th of May, I wrote about how Nicolas Maduro's Venezuela was at breaking point, and I also was saying that other capitals might well run out of options as well. Kim Jong-un, nuke-wielding madman or astute dictator, asks Bloomberg. And I've said he's entirely rational. He saw what happened to Muammar and to Saddam Hussein, and he got himself a deterrent. On that note, I'll put up a photograph of Muammar Gaddafi when he was dead. I wrote a piece at that time, Gaddafi's body in a freezer, what's the message? The message was one that Kim Jong-un took to heart. And I'll put up another photograph, Saddam Hussein, of course, who never had weapons of mass destruction and was hung by the neck. US has detected highly unusual levels of submarine activity by North Korea, a defense official has told CNN. Ivanka Trump tweeted, looking forward to serving alongside John Kelly as we work for the American people. And his first act was to rid himself of Scaramucci, who had got hired, divorced, had a baby, and fired in 10 days like a fruit fly, says Eugene Gu. Donald Trump described yesterday as a great day at the White House. Vicente Fox, who was once the president of Mexico, says, I'm watching this really bad reality TV show with low ratings called Survivor White House. I can't change the channel, sad. And let me leave you with one final political reflection from Kim.com. New Zealand has a new leader. Let's move on to international markets. These are the currency returns in 2017. This is by J.S. Blockland, makes some interesting reading. Let's move on to the currency markets. Euro dollar 118.25. Dollar index well below that key level of 93.50. It's now 92.88. Japanese yen 110.18. Swiss franc 0.9665. The pound 132.13. Aussie, which has been around the shop at 0.8010. India rupee 64.115. South Korean won 11.1805. Brazilian real 3.1273. Remember, they cut rates for the 7th time. Egyptian pound, steady as you like, 17.8960. And the South African rand, that softened up a little bit to 13.1467. The euro traded above 118 for the first time since January 2015. We're currently at 118.25. We hit my target. A lot of people are looking for 120. We've got to watch and see how things unfold from here. But I do think the dollar is very oversold. US crude futures pushed beyond 50 to settle at $50.17. Quite a nice rebound that's happened in oil. It's trading a little bit higher right now at about 50.24. I remain a bear, and I think we just have this weak dollar story, which is seeing people cover shorts. Gold last trading at 1269.76. Doesn't have the impetus one would like to see. Don't mess with Grace Mugabe. She could be the next president of Zimbabwe. This is Guardian during a state banquet in Pretoria, South Africa in April 2015. I had a brief encounter with Grace Mugabe, the First Lady of Zimbabwe. I was asking her husband, Robert Mugabe, about the question of her succeeding him as president. She doesn't have those ambitions, began Mugabe, spectacles perched on his nose reminiscent of an elderly librarian, narrow moustache clinging to his upper lip like a caterpillar. Suddenly he interrupted himself with mock alarm. Careful! There she comes, the frail 91-year-old who increasingly resembles a hanger for his well-tailored suits. Remained seated. I rose and turned to behold his 49-year-old wife, with her cropped hair and long black dress, lace hanging daintily at the wrist. Grace, who had been the subject of persistent gossip about a serious illness, was returning from an interlude on the dance floor that delighted dinner guests. Hello, David Smith of The Guardian. We were just talking about you. For 2 decades, she was a demure companion at her husband's side. Now she has taken the stage as a fearsome political figure in her own right. Can Grace Mugabe seize power before it's too late? Oh, really? You were talking about me? But I'm dead. I'm a corpse, she replied, smiling. The reports about her ill health had apparently been exaggerated. I just wanted to ask you if it's true you might like to be president one day, I asked. Her hard features, which can resemble a mask with striking dark eyes and sculpted cheekbones, dissolved into a laugh. She did not deny it. I don't know. I don't know. Just then the band struck up and I beat a retreat past the glares of South African protocol mandarins, one of whom ordered me to leave, snarling, I hope we never see you again. Abu Dhabi Port says its biggest growth market is Africa, which is interesting. It's a short video, take a listen. South Africa's main stock index scaled a record high on Monday. The bourse's performance, the all-share index, rose 0.85% in early trade on Monday to a new peak of 55,366, has been driven by foreign inflows into equities and earnings garnered offshore. Naspers, a newspaper publisher turned global e-commerce giant, which accounts for over 20% of the JSE's market capitalization, was largely responsible for the JSE's run, having risen sharply as investors see it trading at a large discount to its one-third stake in China's Tencent. Naspers, trading close to an all-time high and up 42% so far this year, has its primary listing on the JSE, and that's what's driven it up. And of course, Tencent is doing extremely well. It's a very smart investment to buy Naspers, which was once an old Afrikaner media company. And on that note of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange hitting a record high, I wrote about this in May when I said Africa plays catch-up, and we've seen a stunning rebound since that date. So yes, the South African all-shares up 8.99% and at an all-time closing high. Dollar versus Rand, the Rand has softened, might be on the back of a Moody's report talking about political pressure on the SAR, South African Reserve Bank. Nigerian all-shares up 33.39% year-to-date. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index is up 33.61% year-to-date. Coming to Kenya, this is a tweet that came out of Al Jazeera English, the process of the 2017 Kenyan presidential elections. Now, we had a lot of drama yesterday, not very good drama. UK and US are gravely concerned by the murder of the IEBC's Chris Msando. Rashid Abdi, who's with the International Crisis Group, said of this murder, "This is someone who was involved in a critical component of the elections, the electronic infrastructure." Chebukati, who's the head of the IEBC, said there is no doubt he was tortured and murdered. The only issue in our minds is who killed him and why. The IEBC has postponed a Monday test of its election results transmission system and will announce a new date soon, he said. NASA, which is backing Odinga's bid for the presidency, condemned the killing. Addressing reporters in Nairobi, coalition spokesman Musalia Mudavadi said Msando's responsibilities included systems dealing with voter identity verification, electronic tallying, and transmitting results. He was at the nerve center, Mudavadi said. He was supposed to lead the results transmission trial run today. It's telling that the key person has been eliminated at this delicate time. The killing is an attempt to drive a dagger into the heart of a forthcoming election, and indeed a dagger into the heart of Kenyan democracy, he said. But we are totally confident that this terrible crime will accomplish the opposite and strengthen all Kenyans' will to demand a free, fair and credible election. This is a photograph of the IEBC chairman, Chebukati, arriving at the city mortuary to see the body of Chris Msando. There is considerable speculation about the missing arm. Gruesome stuff 8 days before the polls, said Martina Stevis. Clearly there was some kind of fingerprint security, a little bit like Kabila the Elder. You remember, he had a lot of money stored in Harare, and they could only open it by flying his dead body to Harare and then pressing the button with his finger. Warning signs that people are worried about Kenya's election. Nairobi's usually horrific traffic jams have all but disappeared. My piece over the weekend was about how youth turnout was key in these elections. And I said, the 8th of August now looms real close, and as it gets closer, the cacophony outside my window overlooking Waiaki Way gets louder and louder. Most polls show this election is too close to call, but pollsters the world over have been getting it wrong from Brexit to Trump. If you look at the United Kingdom, the youth vote slept in during Brexit, then woke up for the UK snap election and nearly carried Jeremy Corbyn into 10 Downing Street. The newly enfranchised youth vote is a big absolute number of first-time voters and is a very big curveball. Is this youth vote turned on? Will it turn out? How will it vote? My view is that this demographic actually has the election in its hands. Will we see a youth quake? And if so, how does it break? The next key issue is turnout, and I think what we're going to see is strategies around voter suppression and opposition strongholds. Are voters on both sides motivated in the same way as they were last time, when the ICC proved a lightning rod in motivating voters in Jubilee strongholds? I was listening to Shafi Weru on his morning show on Kiss FM, and he was regaling his listeners with a tale about how a group of women were withdrawing conjugal rights from their menfolk as a way of compelling turnout and its direction. While Shafi was being tongue-in-cheek, as is his wont, he was touching on a key issue. The election can surely be won or lost on turnout. I recall a US congressman, Hillary Clinton partisan, who described to me how the Democrats never saw the Trump ground game during the campaign. He said we would see US flags but nothing else, and yet Cambridge Analytica and Jared Kushner, with help from the Russians and WikiLeaks, seriously motivated their core base via digital micro-targeting. Are Cambridge Analytica deploying a similar micro-targeting strategy, and will it work? Moving the dial a few percentage points might make all the difference, I said. Beyond those two big macro trends, we know there's been some erosion in what was a monolithic Rift Valley vote last time around. The amount of that erosion is key. How will Maasai land break? And it seems Ukambani is considered all to play for. And on that note about Cambridge Analytica micro-targeting, Tristan McConnell of AFP, Kenya's social media election attack ads and data mining, a strikingly toxic campaign, was unleashed online in Kenya just weeks before the national elections. A potentially explosive move in a country where politics and ethnicity are closely aligned. The 90-second video, shot in moody monochrome, presented a dystopia in which Raila Odinga, the leading opposition candidate, wins the August vote and plunges the nation into a violent and inept dictatorship. Under this scenario, tribes would be set against one another while terrorists run riot. Stop Raila, save Kenya, the future of Kenya is in your hands, the video said. It is unclear who is behind last week's slick video or the real Raila, the shadowy pro-government outfit that disseminated it. But some on Kenya's vibrant social media networks are quick to blame Cambridge Analytica. 7.1 million Facebook users and an estimated 2/3 of Kenya's 45 million people are able to access the internet. There is a critical mass of people leaving an increasingly detailed trail of information about their fears and preferences, a rich resource for those seeking to influence voting choices. Frederick Calterno, policy officer at data advocacy group Privacy International, is worried by the lack of any kind of data protection framework in Kenya. And then another interesting piece by AFP, Dead Voters and Other Ways to Steal a Kenyan Election. In Kenya, people say the dead come back to vote and then return to their graves, said George Murara, chairman of the Kenyan National Commission on Human Rights. Another strategy is to rent voters' identity cards during elections, essentially paying someone not to turn out. When you have someone's ID, this is the guarantee he will not be able to vote, said Mora. In some constituencies, we notice that the registration levels are higher than normal, said Kenny Lusuli. We fear that some are paying others to come and register in a constituency in which they don't live so as to favour a candidate. The last elections were close, with President Kenyatta winning by a margin of less than around 800,000. You don't cancel an election just like that. Courts have to be convinced that the will of the people has been outweighed by the irregularities. Inflation dropped to 7.47% last month on falling food prices, moving within the government's preferred range for the first time since February this year. It was always a food burst of inflation. Stanley Fahari IREIT reported first half earnings per share was up 230.769%. Operating profit up 65.285%. Finance costs reduced, zero gearing. EPS up 230.769%. They say they currently own 3 properties, a shopping centre and 2 semi-office light industrial buildings valued at 2.4 billion shillings. The REIT has delivered growth of 221% in earnings for the 6-month period ended 30th June 2017. EGAD's reported full-year profit after tax surged 3,696%. Off a very low base. Take a look. Average price realized during the year increased to $4.21 a kilo from $3.86 a kilo. Production volumes were up. Stronger results off a low base. Nairobi All Share eked out a fresh 25-month closing high, but only by 0.11%. It's up 21.01% year to date. NSE 20 turned lower, but marginally, and that's up 19.19% year to date. But I would have thought we're going to stall right here, right now. Once again, thank you for stopping by.